episode of CEOTalks, a series where we focus on our members that together and get a behind-the-scenes look at some of the people who are solving a very important problem in business or social. For this episode, we have with us Mr. Prateek Chakravarty. Welcome, Prateek. We're very excited to have you with us today. So to begin with, we know that you did your undergraduation from IIT, post which you moved and completed your MBA from Harvard, after which you worked at a very cross-functional role at multiple companies. Could you shed some light on your journey so far and how you arrived at Zinier?
Sure. And thank you, Abhishek. It's a pleasure interacting with you all, and it's an honor. Did my undergrads from Kharagpur, typical engineering journey. I remember one of my passions was to explore and see the world. So my job search was based on what can take me across many different countries. So I started my journey in the field service, and it's important because that what ultimately brought me to Zinier as well. So I started working in the field. Imagine a blue-collar job of working in the oil field, drilling oil and gas wells. Loved it. It was as different as you can imagine. I graduated during the dot-com boom in 2002, where 90% of my friends were writing code. I don't know how to write a code. So started my journey, got an opportunity to work in 12 different countries, see the different cultures. That defined a lot of who I am today. Fast forward, while doing that, I was dating my current wife. We were deciding to get married. We were looking at dual careers. And MBA was a result of that, trying to get a bit more diversity into the career. Did my MBA, came to the US for my MBA. Post that, wanted to get into the entrepreneurial side of things. But to be honest, I did not have the skill set, Abhishek, back then. I went into an investing route where I thought maybe as an investor I would get to see more startups, which I did. Moved to the Bay Area, which is considered to be the hub of startups. And then made my way into the entrepreneurial world, where my first startup was fortunate to work with a couple of co-founders, helping solve the problem of climate change, where we are working on a solution, a software solution to help people reduce energy consumption. Did that for 8 years. And then fast forward, came to Zinier as the CEO, which brings me back to field service, where I originally started. And I'm sure we'll talk a bit about it, where you're working with the field service organizations to bring about a seismic shift in how we approach deskless workers. So in short, none of it was planned. It was more instinctive of following the heart than the mind, to be honest, Abhishek. A lot of people will plan the stuff, but enjoyed every part of it.
All right, that sounds interesting. So diving a little deeper into what Zinier does and the kind of impact you strive to make through your organization, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, think about people who are working in the field. And by this, I mean, people who are building roads or fixing your utility poles or making sure that your phone lines are working or delivering your food. These are what you call deskless workers.
Yes.
Can you imagine what percent of the total workforce is deskless compared to people like us? We work behind a desk.
Of course.
What percent is deskless? 30, 40, 40, right? Can you take a guess?
I'm assuming about 67?
60, 80%.
Okay.
80% of the people are not like us, right? Now, think of productivity improvements. Every other month, you will see a new startup trying to solve the problems that we face.
Of course, yes.
And we feel we are fairly productive. But I'm sure, there are solutions that have better products. But since entrepreneurs like us live in the world we live in, we tend to solve the problems that we have. The problems of the 80% of the workforce go unnoticed. Can you imagine people working in the field? What kind of mobile apps do they use? Do they at all know how to use mobile apps? Do they have connectivity at all? The problems are very different, right?
Of course.
What we try to do is solve those problems. Focus on that deskless workers. So cut short, what Zinier does, we are a field service software. That's an automation software. We work with companies who have these workforce, right? The telecommunication companies, the manufacturing companies, and we provide them with a software that takes care of the technicians and helps them become more productive. So it's a productivity suite for the technicians. And then we bring in our own innovation using what we call NoCode and low-code, which means it's a highly configurable solution. The time to market, time to value is shorter. The key mission for Zinier being, how do we make the life of those deskless workers better?
How really is Zinier going about solving this problem? So you use, like you said, you have no code, low code solutions. So how does a client typically benefit from this?
Yeah, so our customers, our clients are these service companies who employ these deskless workers. They have a job to be done. Typically it's about fixing something, installing something, maintaining something. So our job is to help them meet their needs. From a product portfolio, think of a software platform. It's a platform play. If you think of a workflow in the field service world, the workflow is fairly standard. You have to generate a work order. You have to understand what parts you need to meet that requirement. You have to schedule someone to the field. The person going to the field will do the job. Then you report out and share the information. So we do an end-to-end workflow for that. It's a software platform with web apps and mobile apps. The innovation coming through the no-code angle. No-code is, let's say, a business user, a non-technical user, a non-coder can make changes to the product without writing a single line of code. And why is that important? Primarily because the time to value. The workflows in the field are very different. The person going out to fix a road, the workflows they have will be very different than who's fixing a utility pole. So as a business user, how can you make those changes very quickly so that you're not spending months and years trying to implement something, you're doing it in a matter of minutes. So that's the innovation. But it's a suite of web and mobile apps that we provide and make sure our customers are servicing their needs in the right manner.
Sounds like a great thing to be doing. And how easy or difficult was it to drive initial market adoption for your services?
See, I think we're still in a growth phase. It's always challenging. Any startup is challenging, right? Finding that initial product market fit, defining the clear value prop. I think what I find most valuable is to be very clear about the mission of the company. What are you set to do? I think that defines everything. Our mission being, we want to focus on the deskless worker and the problems that they're facing, right? That mission has to be clear. Then comes the strategy of how you're going to realize that. Identifying the kind of service companies. Even, if you look at the field service world, it's big. Which kind of service companies you want to go after, right? The fact that it's a big field, it's a benefit to us because the market is huge. But when you're starting with limited capital, your focus is important as well. For that, your early customers become more important. How do you go out and get those early wins, iterate with the product? And we did that. We did all of that. And I won't say everything was done well. We are still learning. We are still making mistakes. As long as we are learning from our mistakes, it becomes important. So those early customer wins, staying focused on those, making sure you're meeting those needs, getting that feedback, and then narrowing down the focus was a key part of it. I would say finding the right team, always important. You're as good as your team. Building a good team, finding the right leaders, the right people who understand the mission, who understand the vision of the company and are dedicated to the startup and scaling the startup. That DNA fit also becomes very, very important as well.
So would you say there was a bit of a co-creation with the early customers in terms of how you refine the product offering? And
always, absolutely, always. Especially we are in the B2B enterprise space. Absolutely, your first customer wins are important. You co-create with them, and then if you're doing well, your customers will lead the evolution of the product. So
possibly your flag bearers.
Absolutely, always. Our first few customers, Black & Veatch, Toshiba is a common name. They are one of our early customers. They're still a customer, and the amount we learn just sitting and listening to them. Just sitting and listening to them, understanding their pain points, making sure we're meeting the needs. That that drives the company and the product forward. Always works.
All right. And so, looking a bit to the future, where do you see the company heading towards in the next 5 years?
Yeah. See, I think the few things that matter to me. I mean, and not in any order. One is, of course, growth. We have our 3-year, 5-year plans on revenue basis and bottom line basis. Equally important, not just top line growth, but bottom line where we want to be. But equally important is building a good product. We want to make a difference. It's not just about growth. We want to build something that people feel proud to use. So, when technicians are using the mobile app or the companies are using the web app, they should feel proud about the product. It should make a difference. They should make a difference in the lives of these restless workers. So building that good product is important. And I'm also very married to the employee brand. I've been fortunate in my journey to look at some brands where, if a person comes from this startup, he or she carries it with a chip on the shoulder, in a good way. So the training, the hiring thing, the culture is good. When I look back, let's say 5 years down the road, when I look back, people graduating through the Zinier school, through the Zinier experience, they should look back at it with a sense of pride and smile, and move forward in their careers. Maybe, we create 100 new entrepreneurs who are bringing about a change in the world. So for me, that employee experience is a sense of pride. So that matters to me as well. So I think combination of those three, revenue growth, product, and that employee experience, that's where we want to be 5 years down the road.
So what would you say has been one of your biggest lessons so far in your journey?
Oh, plenty. How many do you want?
One or two? Let's...
Empathy. Call it compassionate leadership. I'm a huge fan of ex-LinkedIn CEO Jeff Weiner. He talks a lot about compassionate leadership, about, in my role, more than the product, more than sales, more than market, I think what matters is how do you work with people? How do you get the best out of people? So being empathetic, different scenarios you face. I think been so many different scenarios, lessons learned through that. Kind of related to that, maybe a different point, listen more, talk less. As a CEO, you have to be very careful about the words you say, yet you have to be sincere and honest, right? Because whatever you say, people will take it literally and then start marching down the road. So listening more, talking less, being empathetic, very, very important. It's all about how you deal with people and work with people. Decision-making, consistency in decision-making, very important. People are looking up to you to make decisions. I remember the first time I went into a people management role, I was talking to my mentors, and I asked him for advice. He said, just remember you have to take decisions. I said, I didn't understand what he meant by then, but then you realize, you are the senior most person in a room. People look up to you to make those decisions. So how can you make decisions? How can you have a framework to make decisions and be consistent in making decisions? I think those are the three that come to mind, but every day, the good and challenging part of the job is every day is a learning experience. Every day is a new scenario. And you just, that's what makes it exciting. You deal with it, you come up with your own frameworks. Most days are challenging, some are good, some are not so good, but as long as you have that self-awareness to keep learning, that's important. That is important. You learn every day.
Moving on to a slightly different topic, something I've personally I'm a big proponent of is, what do you think about the future of NoCode? And the associated growth and adoption of no-code tools. I mean, now in the market, we've got a huge growth of tools like Webflow, Bubble, and a lot of these suites, right, essentially allow entrepreneurs to now come from non-tech backgrounds and start something of their own. What do you think about the whole no-code movement?
See, I mean, I'm not a coder. So, of course, I would love the no-code tools. Take a slightly different view to it. So, no-code is a tool.
Of course.
At the end of the day, the core is what problem are you solving? And are you passionate about solving that problem? Once you have identified a problem to solve as an entrepreneur, and you are passionate about it and your conviction is high, there will be a number of different tools. There could be a no-code tool, there could be some other tools. So rather than fixating on the tool, while we are a no-code company and we see a lot of value, I think it's the problem statement. So for example, in Zinier's case, we are talking about technicians and deskless workers who are not as tech savvy as people like us, right? They are not tech savvy. The people working in the office who are supporting these technicians, they are also not tech savvy. So it was a very natural decision for us to think no code. So that's where the tool came in. Now, the tool is a medium to solve the problem. I am passionate about the problem to be solved, and when we look to bring on people, I want them to be passionate. Doesn't mean that you have to be, you need not have worked in the field service, but you should have an appreciation of the problem we are solving, and you should be aligned with the vision of the company. No-code happens to be a good tool. So yeah, I'm excited about no-code, but tomorrow some other tool might come.
Of course.
I'll be excited about that. As long as I know, hey, here are the problems I'm trying to solve, and do I have the conviction to solve that problem? And do I have a conviction to rally a team to solve that problem?
And what would be the DNA of an employee of Zinier? What would embody an employee at the company?
We look for, call it the 4 H's.
4 H's.
4H. Hunger, hustle, honesty, humility. You should have the hunger to grow. The hustle you need in a startup, very chaotic environment. Honesty, be honest with yourself. We'll make a lot of mistakes, own it, learn from it and make new ones. And the humility. Humility to keep learning, keep growing. So those are core philosophies of who we look for. I also say, especially in this remote environment, but even otherwise, we like people who bring in clarity. And you'll see a lot of discussions happening in remote world, and whether you're an engineer, you're a product person, or salesperson, or marketing, or operations, driving clarity becomes so important. Could be by giving direction, it could be by asking questions, but taking accountability and bringing clarity into the equation is very, very, very important. And especially when I interview people, when I see that, you're bringing in clarity into conversations, clarifying, simplifying stuff to move the discussion forward. Very, very important.
What questions do you rarely get, even though you've been thinking about the answers a lot?
What questions do I rarely get? So what questions I wish I could get, and
Or something that's been on your mind, but not something that some people are bringing up maybe in the conversation?
See, as a CEO, not many people ask me, how am I doing today? Just a basic thing of, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Important time. Yeah.
They look up to me as the leader, say, hey, how are you feeling today? How's it going? Yes, you don't get that a lot. Not that I can share my feelings that openly. That comes with the job. But yeah, I wish people. I'm a human being as well. So if they ask, maybe that comes to mind. That comes to mind. But you think about your feelings all the time. That always goes on in your mind. Your mood keeps going up and down. But you cannot display that. You cannot talk about that in the professional world much. Yet you have to be sincere. You have to be honest,
course.
But yeah, I wish people ask me, how are you feeling today? Yeah, good question.
So, are you an early riser or a night owl?
Night owl.
What is your childhood dream job?
I wanted to be a cricketer.
Um, who has been your biggest inspiration?
My grandfather.
What book are you currently reading?
A man called Ove.
What is the best professional advice you've ever got and from whom?
It was my mentor a few years back. He said, Prateek, as a leader, you have to make decisions and be consistent about it.
How do you start your day?
Waking my kids up for school and a cup of coffee.
What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Be comfortable with failure. Try out new stuff and fail. Don't be too uptight about success at that age.
How do you unwind after a long work week?
I read books. I play with my dogs and kids. Going out on dinner dates with my wife whenever we can. My kids are at an age where I can leave them alone. They're twins, 8.5 years old. I can leave them at home. So yeah, just in and around family and friends.
If you could have any 3 people for dinner from any time period, who would they be?
Personal or professional?
Your call.
And my wife and 2 kids.
Name one other company and a CEO that inspire you and why.
I'm a huge Satya Nadella fan. Huge fan. I mean, the turnaround he has affected in Microsoft, which is a big company, it's for everyone to see. Just as a human being, the way he articulates his values, I'm a huge Nadella fan. I mean, I told you I'm a night owl. I do my dishes in the night at home. I'll just put on the YouTube and just listen to him speak. The clarity he brings, huge fan. Humility, everything, huge Nadella fan.
So thank you so much for your time and for meeting us today. One question before we go. Do you have any advice for any future aspiring CEOs?
And I'm just a normal human being to give any advice. There are so many of them out there. If I may, I would say, well, a few things. Don't take the job too seriously. It's a job, you know. 2 is take care of yourself. It does come with a lot of stress, a lot of demand on your time. Just figure out how to take care of yourself. Have your priorities right. Family, your job. I think defining that would be important. And just be humble. Keep learning. I think it's solve relevant problems. I think especially as a startup, as an entrepreneur, make sure you're solving a good problem. Make sure you're making a difference to the society. It should be about the value you're adding, not being a CEO. Enjoy. I mean, I'm learning as well, so I'm learning every day. But yeah, and if I can share anything, those would be the few things I would.
So thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Abhishek.
We'll leave you with these very thought-provoking words, and we'll be back soon with another episode of CEO Talks. Thank you.